Welcome to Rock Your Talk. I'm Leisa Reid, and this is part of our Interview the Expert series. I've got our guest Mike Reilly with us today, and I'm excited to have him here. He's from Starfish Signs and Graphics down in San Clemente. I am Leisa Reid from Productive Learning and founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. We are bringing lots of great tips for you as we go through this COVID-19 experience and just in general in business. And Mike is here to share some tips about managing employees during COVID-19 and just managing in general, because that's something he's been doing for a while. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about you and what Starfish Signs and Graphics does.
So our business, I'd be happy to. Our business is a custom sign design, manufacturing, and installation company. We're located, as you said, in San Clemente in South Orange County. My wife and I started the business in 2012, so we're in year 8. And if you remember the recession in 2008, so 2012, we were coming out of the recession.
Yes.
And it's been essentially a period of growth since then. So the uncertainty that we're going through right now is kind of really the first big challenge that we've had from that sort of macroeconomic point of view.
I think you and I met soon after you started business. I think it was around 2013 that we met. So, or at least when I met Laura, I didn't realize it had been that long. Wow. And your signs are all over Orange County, like in different outlets, shopping centers, retail stores, right? You've got signs everywhere.
We do, and that makes it a very interesting aspect of the job. When I drive around Orange County and even up towards Los Angeles or San Diego, we see our signs everywhere. And it's kind of like your kids. I think you remember everyone. And
like, oh, we made that one.
Right. We remember the good and the bad. But yes, we serve a lot of a variety of customers in commercial, retail, and professional spaces.
Yeah, anytime I see a sign that's maybe a little not professional looking or needs a little upgrade, maybe one of the lights is out or it just looks a little shabby, I always think of you. I'm like, oh, they need Starfish Signs and Graphics. Get them on the phone right away. So I know you have a team over there, and you were wanting to share some tips about managing employees during this time. Can you kick us off with your first tip?
I'd be happy to. We've got an excellent team. We have 7 employees, and my wife and I work full-time in the business. My wife's name is Laura. I don't think I introduced her, but we both work full-time in the business. And I'm a very firm believer in the only real sustainable competitive advantage is the culture of an organization. I think almost anything else can be duplicated. So my first tip, what I would like to start with, which is number 1 on my list, is that our team members really are our most important asset. And we've got to keep that firmly in mind, particularly in a difficult period as we're going through right now. It's really important, I believe, to understand where each person is and what we need to do, not just to retain them through this period of uncertainty, but looking to the future. We want them to come back really excited and ready to go to help us move into the next set of challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to keep your eye on, because our human capital, our human resources are a huge asset. And in this time, it can be easy to forget that, or people when they're in panic mode can just kind of go inward and only think of, I'm not saying people just think of themselves, but in a panic, I could see where someone would do that. So when you're responsible for other individuals like employees, I love your perspective of really kind of thinking of the whole team and that entity and how powerful and resourceful they are. That's pretty amazing. How are you doing that? How are you keeping them forefront for your team?
Well, I had learned early in my career that a leader needs to treat all employees fairly, but I don't believe you treat all employees the same. And so, one important point is just to understand where everyone is we want to do this in good times. You know, what things are important to our employees? Where are they in their life and their career? And what is it that really helps us to align our mission with their personal mission? And now with uncertain times, it's even more important because there are the obvious stresses associated, financial stresses, uncertainty, fear of what might happen. But in addition, each person is kind of different. They're different in their financial situation. They're different in terms of their health risks. They're different in terms of even what employees are comfortable doing during this time. You know, some employees absolutely don't want to be exposed to other people. Some employees are comfortable working in a controlled situation. So to the extent possible, we really want to understand our employees, what things are driving them and influencing their behavior, and how can we align what we need to do with where they are.
That's a great point. And then I know you had a couple other tips up your sleeve. What's your next tip for us?
Well, tip number 2, which maybe follows naturally from the first one, is it's not about me. I mean, I'm human as well. I have my own anxieties and concerns. I'm concerned about the health of my family and my community. I'm worried about the where the business is headed and how things might change. And I do need to manage those things. But in terms of leading a team, it's like I say, it's not about me, it's about them. They're expecting me to provide confidence and reassurance and direction and guidance. And I don't mean to overstate it. I'm not a prophet or, I'm not clairvoyant, but I do think in my role and maybe at the point in my life where I am, it's important for me to provide leadership within my family and within my team of employees. And I think we're all seeing situations now where leadership is sorely lacking, as well as a few examples where it's well done. And I think if we can each step up and provide whatever is the appropriate type of leadership for wherever we are, we'll all be better off as a result of that.
Yeah, it's really, that's a great point. This is a call to leadership, right? Like okay, now, how are you going to lead during this crisis? You know, it's a little easier to lead when everything's going great, right? But when we're stuck with some external circumstances, things beyond our control, a lot of fear comes up. And so as the leader, everyone automatically is like, what do we do? They're looking at you. And to have that mindset sounds really healthy for you. Like you're grounded. It's not that you wanted to be in this position in terms of, these external circumstances, but you are taking ownership of your role in leading the herd, leading the pack, if you will. And that's a big responsibility. So it sounds like you're doing that consciously. And I know you're in the conscious leadership circle. How have you, if it's okay to share and whatever you're comfortable sharing, how has that helped you be like, if you could imagine prior to the conscious leadership circle, if you had not been in that and this crisis came up, do you imagine like the difference of who you are now versus who you were a few years ago and how you would have managed it? Can you think of a contrast of how you would show up as a leader?
Yes, I think so.
Sorry, that was a long, weird question, but I think I got there.
I'll give you a short, weird answer. But, I'm probably stating the obvious, but one of the things I've learned or had reinforced is, emotions are present. We all have emotions. They're there. By and large, we don't control them. They just are. And so things like anxiety and uncertainty, I feel those things like everyone else. But I've learned to recognize and accept that, but that doesn't need to become my reality. Right. So it's kind of like trying to operate on 2 levels, and I don't claim to do it better than anyone else, but just the awareness that there are these emotions, they are present. And in addition to that, how do I provide leadership to my team? So it's not about how do I eliminate the anxiety so that I can be effective, because I
Right.
don't think that'll ever happen. But how do I kind of accept both situations at the same time and still be as effective as I can be?
Yeah, I really like how you put that, because anxiety or any emotion, anger, fear, all joy, can be utilized as it's an energy, and it can actually help us when we can, like we have a workshop called Harnessing Your Motivation. So it's like, how do you harness that energy and recognize when it's coming up for you as an individual, as a leader, and then use it instead of letting it use you. Like, if we don't want to get yanked around, so like, how do we then take that energy and
Mhm.
direct it? So like in this example, or in this situation that we're in right now, there's a lot of people feeling anxiety. Okay, so that's there. But then, like for me, I'll think of like, well, how is my anxiety helping me right now? Okay, well, I'm making plans, because I'm considering what could happen. So I'm being preventative. But if I use it in a way where I'm aware of it and conscious, it's like, that's more calming to me, of like, oh, great. My anxiety is telling me to make a plan about something. Okay, got it. I can do that. Instead of like, oh my God, I have to make a plan, like this frenetic, frenzied anxiety, or the quiet, really fear-based anxiety too. So there's ways that you can start to play with it as you know your own habitual emotions as a leader. And it sounds like that you've done that really well.
I try.
All right. What's tip number 3, Mike?
Okay, so following, if tip 1 is our team members are our most important asset, tip 2 is it's not about me, and tip 3 is really how do we execute during this period. So it's balance the focus. The way I describe it is balance the focus on the near term with what comes longer term, or maybe we'd say balance the tactical and the strategic. But it's so easy to get caught up in the short-term situation, whatever the immediate responses are that are necessary. And there is a longer term out there, which will involve, in my opinion, new opportunities and new situations where we can grow and do better and move forward. And I heard a discussion from a very senior member of the productive learning staff, whose initials are Lyndon Crow. And he said, in a situation like this, you picture where are your fears going? What's the worst situation that you can imagine?
Yes.
And then decide that's probably not going to happen. So you kind of put that aside, and what might happen? What might be the new opportunities? And for us, we're really in the early stages of thinking about that. But I don't know if there are, just to pick one example, if online shopping accelerates even further from where it is right now, what will that do to our traditional business serving retail outlets, and how do we be prepared for that? So there's kind of a possible negative outcome, but maybe there are positives that are associated with that. Maybe there are more delivery vehicles that need to have graphics put on them, or whatever. As I say, we're in the early
Yeah, it's kind of
stages
like
of
that SWOT analysis, in a sense, when you can like have that emotional taking care of your emotions in like the worst scenario. Okay, this is the worst scenario that I can conjure up right now. And then, well, what do I think might like, if that's not really actually going to happen, even though I'm imagining it could, but as a, so I'm just sort of repeating back what you're saying. Then it's, well, what might happen that like, what are actually some threats to this scenario for our business? And then, okay, so if those are the threats, then what are the opportunities, and what strengths can we bring to those opportunities, and how can we get creative? It sounds like you're saying like, oh, well, there's actually delivery trucks out there. So that might be a way, that's another opportunity that maybe has been part of your business, but hasn't been the full,
Mm-hmm.
the main focus, because the retail has been the main focus.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, I like to play with that timeline as well, where sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes if I think out into the future, I can get panicked, but sometimes when I think out to the future, I am excited. So it depends on, so I'll play with that timeline of how I think of something depending on the situation. Like, I noticed my husband right now, he's a golf instructor. He's been doing that 30 years, and golf courses are closed. So when I think into the future of like my uncertainty of how long is this going to go on, and how long, will we be without, that part of his income, I can feel scared, panicked, like stressed. Oh my gosh. So then I go, okay, let me back it up. Let me come closer to the present. Like, how are we today? We're fine. Everything's great. What about next week? Probably pretty much the same. And then next month. So I see, like, I start to play with that timeline to where I can access that calmness, that groundedness again. But I also like thinking about productive learning and what we were already planning on doing virtual stuff anyway. In December, we had decided we were going to launch some virtual options for people. This certainly put the fire under turned up the heat a little bit to get it done quicker. And now when I think of the future, when I think of productive learning, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like, we're building everything right now. We're creating, and some of the programs have already been created and built. But when I think of like 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, I'm like, oh my gosh, we could have a completely other whole avenue of business and people that we can serve that we never could serve before. So it's like super exciting. So to me, I just sort of play with that timeline depending on what I'm thinking about and where, and noticing how I'm feeling during that timeline, and then just adjusting it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of exciting. When I think about it, it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the cartoons you see about the dinosaurs, becoming extinct because they couldn't change.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, for me, it's thinking through that methodology. What are the possible risks? What are the parts of our business that will change or go away? And then, trying to identify where the opportunities are. And, we don't have to get them all right. We just have to find a couple of niches that can add to our growth and take advantage of those.
Absolutely. And you never know. I think what's cool too is that like it starts to I'm super excited to see what's created in this time. Like when when we don't have to come up with anything new, it's like, oh well, there's no reason for innovation.
Right.
But when we're prompted and like there's a force that creates like a need, or it opens up our minds, and wow, like I can't even imagine right now, like a year from now, I'm like, what will we have that we didn't even dream of having today? I think that's a really exciting conversation. So yeah, cool. See, I knew you'd share some brilliant stuff with us, Mike.
Well, I don't claim brilliance, but
I'll claim it for you. I know how smart you are. Well, thank you for sharing some tips, and certainly for those audience members, if you are in need of some graphics or some signage, go ahead and look up Starfish Sign and Graphics. What's your website?
It's starfishsigns.com.
Okay, so starfishsigns.com, and you can look and see if they can serve any of your needs. I know Mike and Laura would certainly appreciate your business and take really good care of you. Until next time, be good to yourself and be good to somebody else too. We'll see you later.